It was another normal morning on the little railway. The only thing that wasn't normal was that Coldy was gone forever. The engines had been told by their controller to expect a new engine that day, if not two of them. Suddenly, the controller stepped out of his office. Engines, shortly arriving soon, will be two new engines. They will both be tank engines. One will be having two driving wheels and will be taking passenger trains with Duke. The other three of you will be taking goods trains, taking turns, and sometimes doing duels or triples. Then, the foreman disappeared into his office. The engines didn't know what to say. It wasn't going to be very normal with two new engines, but they knew that steam engines, were being kicked out of their old railways. And the island of Soda was one of the only railways that accepted steam engines 100%. But they still would allow diesel engines, as long as they were good and grateful for what they had. Suddenly, Duke broke the big silence. I can't wait to see what these two engines are. Can't you guys? Yeah, Sir Handel said. Yeah, I can't wait, said Peter Sam. Well, I better get going. Anything can happen in the daytime, you know. Plus, I've got a passenger train to go pull. See you guys later. The next moment, Sir Handel had gone back to sleep. But the two engines heard two bright, full whistles. They all looked around. In came a yellow engine with the number 6 on his side, and a red engine with the number 1 on his side. Hello, you must be the narrow gauge engines of the Sodor Railway, the red one said. Indeed we are, said Peter Sam. So, what's life like? Suddenly, Duke heard the whistles, and he was peering around the mountain. Oh, look! It's the two new engines! And what might your names be? My name's Duncan, said the yellow one. And my name is Scarlowy, said the red one. Great. I don't know which one of you will be working with me pulling passenger trains, but whichever one of you it is, you better not be clumsy with the coaches. They are very fragile. Indeed, they truly are, said Sir Handel. Suddenly, reappeared the foreman. I see you guys have arrived. Now, Duke, it is time you help Duncan pull his first passenger train here on the little railway. And remember, it can always be called by an engine if they do really well on the railway. Scarlowy had a good feeling. He had already had a railway named after him 3 times. He wasn't worried about getting it this time. Duke was now doing as he was told, helping Duncan learn how to pull a passenger train on the little railway. What was going to happen was Duncan was going to be pulling from the front. Duke was going to follow close behind the train, just in case Duncan ever needed a little help. The coaches, however, were not very happy. It's not right, one of them snapped. No, it isn't. Pfft, whatever. I'm actually excited, you know? We get to be the first ones pulled by this engine. Isn't that a bad thing? He's got no experience whatsoever pulling us. Suddenly, Duncan made a loud whistle noise, pulled out of the station. Oh, we don't want to go, the coaches grumbled. Duke laughed, and he followed close behind. Time flew by, and Duncan had stopped in a station to pick up passengers. Sam, the back coach, grumbled. This isn't right, he said. Oh, whatever, Sam, Mary said. Although I'm not gonna lie, I'm not okay being pulled with an engine that has never pulled a passenger train in his life, or probably has, but never with big, heavy coaches like us. I've actually kind of changed my mind now, said Jerry. You guys make it sound so bad. First, I didn't think it was a problem. Well, now do you think it's a problem? Sam snapped. Yes, said Jerry. Dude. Okay, Duncan, now it's time to leave the station. All right, and Duncan rattled off. Stop rocking! The back coach screamed. Duncan didn't listen to the coaches, though. He just calmly said, come along, when suddenly he realized his rattle had let loose two of the coaches. In came two angry coaches and a very upset Duke. Why did you do that, Duncan? He said sternly. I was just rocking and rolling like you're supposed to do. Duke and another coach went flying down. Duncan, wait up, he yelled as he quickly shunted the coach on, but didn't have enough time to keep his own grip. The coupling snapped and he went rolling down the hill. Driver, once we get to the station, call for help. He's gone wild, Duke yelled as he raced down the hill with no control. Duncan, however, was enjoying himself. He still rattled when he came to a part of the big mountain that didn't have any guardrails. The coach right behind him jumped off. Duncan realized it as he started going down the mountain when he got held up. Then two coaches were off. Then three. Duncan now couldn't move. He had to wait for help to come and save him. Meanwhile, while all of this was happening in the mountain area, the three engines left in this shed, Sir Handel, Peter Sam, and Skarloey, were all telling stories. Skarloey had just finished about how his railway had been taken over about diesels. When it said about his friend that was a steam engine collapsing into ravine, it reminded Peter Sam of an old friend, Coldy. Peter Sam started telling the story. So there was this bright and cheerful little purple tank engine on the railway who had the number 4. His name was Coldy. He could climb the mountains very well, pulling heavy passenger trains. One day he was taking a passenger train, and mystically, he went up the mountain when suddenly, randomly, the passenger coach's brakes went on, Peter Sam continued. And so, when he came towards the railings on the mountain bridge, the coach tried to jump off, but it didn't. It stayed on the rails. Then it actually jumped off, and it fell straight into the ravine. Coldy's 2 wheels were off the track. Coldy was so upset, he even let off a big, loud whistle to warn people he was there. As his tears started rolling down his eyes, Duke came running up the mountain, and the last thing Duke saw of Coldy was his cabin. As he went plunging into suddenly in came a big whistling brown engine. Hoot, hoot! There's no time to lose. Duncan's about to pull a Coldy with a full 3-coach passenger train. Sir Handel and Peter Sam took aware of this immediately. I'll go the other way with Skarloey, Peter Sam yelled, as he and Skarloey coupled up and went down the other end of the track. The mission was soon a go. Duke and Sir Handel were coming up near the back of the train, while Peter, Sam, and Skarloey came up to the front. "Duncan, you're about to go falling into the ravine," they said, carefully. Up behind were Duke and Sir Handel. Duke gave off a loud hoot and yelled, "We're all clear! They're back on the rails!" Duncan's coal had all fallen out, so all of the engines worked together to get to the bottom of the hill. Peter Sam continued telling the story to Skarloey that night, while Duncan sat away from all of the engines, very disappointed in the way he had pulled his train. Duke said. And that story of young Coldy and young Duncan now are both two grand examples of how young engines must learn their lessons. But Coldy wasn't a young engine, Peter Sam said. It was an accident that had happened within the conducting. The conductor is still alive, but he is in custody, for he purposely did that to kill the train and all the passengers on board. All the engines, sadly, began to look down at their buffers. "It's all right," Skarloey said. "I'm sure one day you'll find someone who reminds you directly of your friend." The next day, Skarloey was taking a goods train up the mountains. He was taking coal to the miners who needed a fire that night. He was also taking wood for the fire. And yet there was a package that was filled with supplies for digging. As Skarloey came to the top of the hill, the trucks started to play games. As one of them began to lift up in the air and go down, Skarloey quickly caught up with it and did not pull a Coldy. As Skarloey started going down the mountain, the trucks started to push him. He went up in the air as well as the trucks. Skarloey braked very quietly and did not apply steam. He came slowly down to the mountain, and the trucks didn't even have an effect on a single thing he did. When Skarloey arrived back at the sheds, he told Duncan that was the way you pulled a train around the island. All the engines laughed, but Duncan couldn't help but grin.